The ancients have long whispered a truth that echoes through the corridors of time, a truth that the modern world, in its relentless noise, has tried to drown out. They said that the world you see outside is merely a reflection of the world you hold inside, that what you chase in the vast, chaotic expanse of the external is but an echo of a treasure you have forgotten within. We have been taught to be miners of the material, to dig relentlessly for status, for validation, for the fleeting glint of worldly riches, believing that our value is measured by what we can accumulate. We build our empires of glass and steel higher into the sky, yet find the inner landscape of our soul has somehow shrunk, becoming barren and quiet in all the wrong ways. We fill our lives with connection, yet feel profoundly alone. But what if the greatest fortune is not something to be acquired, but something to be realized? This is the journey toward what we will call inner wealth. This is not a concept for the mind to grasp, but a state of being to inhabit. It is the palpable stillness in the center of a storm. It is the unwavering clarity that sees beyond the illusions of fear and lack. It is a quiet, unconditional love for the very fact of your own existence, a richness that permeates every cell. This is the only asset that cannot be stolen, the only currency whose value never diminishes in the face of life's shifting markets. So know this, what you are about to embark upon is not a lecture. It is not a set of rules to follow. It is a homecoming. It is a gentle yet profound invitation to step across the threshold of the external noise and into the sacred, silent sanctuary of your own being. Together, we will walk a path of remembrance. We will gently peel back the layers of conditioning, the accumulated dust of forgetting, until we touch the radiant, unbreakable core of who you truly are. The answers you seek are not contained within these words themselves. They are waiting for you in the silence between them. They are waiting for you, in you. Let us begin. And so we begin, not with a great leap, but with a simple act of listening. Listen for a moment to the world around you, not just with your ears, but with your entire being. Feel the ceaseless hum of activity, the relentless vibration of a world that never sleeps. The phone in your pocket buzzes with notifications, each one a tiny, urgent demand for your attention. The screen you look at flickers with an endless river of information, images, and opinions, flowing so fast that you can never truly grasp any of it. It is a torrent, and you are standing in the middle of it. There is the noise of traffic, the noise of conversation, the noise of media. But beneath it all, there is a deeper, more pervasive noise. It is the noise of expectation, the noise of comparison, the silent, screaming pressure to be somewhere else, to be someone else, to be more than you are right now. This is the great paradox of our time. We have built a world that is more interconnected than ever in human history, yet we feel more isolated than ever before. We can speak to anyone on the planet in an instant, yet we have forgotten how to speak to ourselves. We have 1,000 friends online, but we feel profoundly, achingly lonely in a quiet room. This is because the connection we have created is wide, but it is not deep. It is a connection of the surface, a brittle facade of shared images and curated thoughts. It is not a connection of the soul. And in the absence of true connection, what remains is a void, a hollow space that we try to fill with more noise, more distraction, more consumption. It is a desperate attempt to outrun the silence we fear, and so we live in a state of deafening silence, a state so loud with meaningless chatter that we can no longer hear the one voice that matters, the one voice that holds the key to the very wealth we seek, the voice of our own soul. This noise is not just an external phenomenon, it is a virus that has infected our inner world. Think of the different frequencies that bombard you each day. There is the frequency of aspiration, the constant broadcast that tells you that you are not enough as you are. It shows you curated lives, polished successes, and filtered realities, creating a relentless standard of perfection that is designed to be unattainable. It whispers that your worth is tied to your next achievement, your next purchase, your next promotion. It puts you on a treadmill, running towards a horizon that constantly recedes, leaving you in a perpetual state of breathless dissatisfaction. Then there is the frequency of opinion. It seems the whole world is shouting its advice, its judgments, its doctrines, how you should think, how you should feel, how you should vote, how you should raise your children, how you should live your life. These voices, coming from family, from culture, from the endless chorus of online experts, become internalized. They set up camp in your mind, arguing and debating, creating a cacophony of conflicting commands until you can no longer distinguish your own true north. And perhaps most seductive of all is the frequency of distraction. It is the easiest to tune into, the endless supply of entertainment, trivia, and drama that is always just a click away. It promises relief. It promises an escape from boredom, from discomfort, from pain. But its true function is to prevent you from being alone with yourself. It is a sophisticated defense mechanism against the terrifying prospect of stillness, because in true stillness, we might have to face our anxieties, we might have to feel our grief, we might have to confront the parts of ourselves we have long abandoned. So we choose the noise. We choose the endless scroll, the binge watch, the constant stream of stimulation, all to avoid the profound encounter with the self. Imagine your soul is a finely crafted radio, built with exquisite precision. Its natural state is to be tuned to a single, clear, powerful frequency, the frequency of the universe itself. The broadcast from this station is subtle, yet profound. It is the music of your own intuition, the voice of your purpose, the sacred hum of your own being. It speaks in the language of peace, of clarity, of unconditional love. This broadcast is always on the air. It has never, for a single moment, stopped transmitting. But the modern world has built massive, crude transmission towers all around you, each one blaring a signal that is designed to hijack your dial. They are loud, aggressive, and full of static. There is the station K-Fear, broadcasting 24/7 about what could go wrong, what you stand to lose, and why you should be afraid. There is W-Ego, a talk radio station where the only topic is your own perceived importance, your grievances, your need to be right, and your comparison to others. There is the shopping channel of Not Enough, which constantly advertises all the things you lack and all the things you need to buy to feel whole for just a moment. These external stations are so loud and their frequencies so jarring that they create immense static on your own inner receiver. The noise is so overwhelming that the pure, subtle music of your soul is drowned out. And after years of listening to this static, a strange and tragic thing happens. You forget that another broadcast even exists. You start to believe that the static is the only music there is. You mistake the frantic, anxious noise of the ego for the true voice of your soul. You believe the fear-mongering is wisdom. You believe the endless wanting is ambition. You believe the constant distraction is living. The first step on this journey, then, is not to try and find a new station. It is not to fight the noise or to curse the static. It is simply to acknowledge that what you are hearing is, in fact, noise. It is to give it its proper name. This anxiety you feel is not you. It is static. This pressure you feel is not your purpose. It is a hijacked frequency. This sense of lack is not your reality. It is a distorted broadcast. The price of living in this constant state of noise is immense. It is a slow erosion of your inner wealth. The first casualty is your intuition, that quiet, knowing voice inside, that gut feeling, that inner compass cannot compete with the shouting of the world. It speaks in whispers, and the world screams. So you stop listening. You start to outsource your decisions, relying on external maps drawn by people who have no idea about your unique inner landscape. You follow trends, you follow advice, you follow the crowd, and you wander further and further from your own path. The next cost is a deep, soul-level fatigue. It is not the simple tiredness that is cured by a night of sleep. It is a chronic exhaustion that comes from the relentless mental and emotional labor of navigating the noise, processing endless streams of useless information, managing the persona you present to the world, fending off the anxiety of comparison. It is the weariness of a soul that is being forced to live out of sync with its own natural rhythm. This leads to a profound sense of a synchronicity with life itself. You feel like you are constantly in the wrong place at the wrong time. You rush when your soul wants to be still. You hesitate when a bold move is required. You say yes when your entire being is screaming no. You are dancing to a rhythm that is not your own, and the dissonance creates a state of constant, low-grade suffering. So, for a moment, right now, just stop. Do not try to fix anything. Do not try to change anything. Simply acknowledge. Acknowledge the hum of anxiety. Acknowledge the weight of expectation. Acknowledge the weariness in your bones. Feel it without judgment. Let yourself be exactly as you are, a being saturated with the noise of the world. In this simple, honest act of acknowledgement, something miraculous happens. You create a space, a tiny, almost imperceptible gap between you, the observer, and the noise you are observing. In that space, there is silence. It might only last for a second. A brief pause in the relentless inner chatter. A momentary fading of the static. That is the beginning. That is the first turning of the dial away from the noise and back towards the signal. It is the first assertion of your power, the quiet declaration that you are not the noise, you are the one who hears it. And as we stand here, in this newfound sliver of silence, having recognized the overwhelming noise that comes from the world outside, a question naturally begins to form in our awareness. Where does this noise truly live? The world may be loud, but its sounds can be shut out by closing a door. The notifications can be silenced by turning off a phone. But there is one source of noise that follows us into every room, into the deepest silence of the night. We begin to realize that the external world only provides the raw material. The true factory of noise, the place where it is amplified, customized, and played on an endless loop, is within our own skulls. Our journey, therefore, must take us inward. It must lead us from the crowded, chaotic public square of the world and into the private, intricate sanctuary of our own mind. It is time to meet the unseen architect of all this noise. It is time to observe the mind itself. Having acknowledged the pervasive noise of the world, we now turn our gaze from the effect to the cause. We journey inward, past the gates of the senses, into the very heart of the machinery that produces our inner reality. We come to the domain of the unseen architect. This architect is your mind. It is the most powerful, creative, and dangerous force you will ever encounter. With its primary building material, the ephemeral substance of thought, it constructs the entirety of your perceived world. It builds the towering prisons of your deepest fears and the sunlit palaces of your greatest joys. It engineers the intricate hells of resentment and the sacred gardens of peace. It does all this silently, relentlessly, and for the most part, without your conscious permission. For your entire life, you have lived within the structures it has built, believing them to be the whole of reality. You have believed that you are the architect. But here, in this quiet moment, we will entertain a revolutionary possibility. What if you are not the architect, but the silent consciousness that lives within the house? And what if you have the power to step outside, to walk around the structure, and for the first time, to see it for what it truly is? The source of our deepest suffering, the root of all inner poverty, stems from a single, fundamental error. It is a case of mistaken identity. From a very young age, we are taught to fuse our sense of self with the activity of our mind. We commit the great error of identification. A thought of sadness appears in the mind, and we immediately conclude, "I am sad." A thought of failure passes through, and the story becomes, "I am a failure." A thought of anger flashes, and we declare, "I am an angry person." We do not see a thought as an impersonal, fleeting event. We see it as a direct and absolute definition of our being. This fusion is the mechanism by which the mind holds us captive. We become chained to its every mood, its every judgment, its every fear. The endless, churning stream of thinking is no longer just a mental process. It becomes our personal narrative, our life story, and we are dragged along by its unpredictable currents, powerless to resist. This is the default state of human consciousness, the state of being asleep, of being completely and utterly identified with the architect and its ever-changing blueprints. To break this spell, we must employ a new way of seeing. Let us use a metaphor. Imagine that your mind is a great and ancient river. It has always been flowing, and it will always be flowing. This river is not good or bad. It is simply a force of nature. On some days, its waters are calm, clear, and sparkling in the sun, carrying gentle currents of joy and peace. On other days, a storm upstream has churned it into a muddy, violent torrent, with dangerous rapids of anger and dark, cold undercurrents of fear. This river is the ceaseless flow of your thoughts and emotions. For most of our lives, we live as though we have been thrown into this river. We are born into it, and we know nothing else. We are tumbled and tossed by the currents, believing that our only purpose is to struggle. We fight the rapids of anger, we try to cling to the eddies of pleasure, and we are terrified of the deep, dark pools of sorrow. We are constantly battered against the sharp rocks of painful memories and dragged under by the relentless pull of anxiety about what lies around the next bend. Because we believe we are the river, our entire existence is one of struggle and exhaustion. We are, in essence, trying to control a force of nature, and we are perpetually failing, perpetually drowning. Now, I invite you to experience a profound shift. Take a deep breath, and with that breath, imagine that you can lift yourself out of the water. Imagine you are no longer the struggling swimmer, but you are standing firmly on the riverbank. Solid ground is beneath your feet. You can feel the stillness of the earth, the unmoving presence of your own being. From here, on this stable bank, you can watch the entire river flow by. Nothing has changed about the river. The rapids of anger still crash and foam. The gentle currents of joy still glide past. The dark waters of sadness still flow silently. But everything has changed about you. You are no longer in the water. You are the witness of the water. You can observe the turbulent thoughts of rage without becoming rage. You can watch the thoughts of grief drift by without being consumed by grief. You can appreciate the beautiful sunlit thoughts of happiness without clinging to them, knowing that they too are part of the flow. You are the bank. The river flows past you, but it is not you. The bank is not affected by the quality of the water. It simply provides the space for the river to be itself. This is the beginning of all true freedom. This is the disidentification. You are not the mind. You are the consciousness that is aware of the mind. This is not a mere intellectual concept. It is a practice, a skill to be cultivated moment by moment. Let us try it now. In this stillness, simply adopt the posture of a watcher. Become a silent guardian at the gate of your own mind. Do not try to stop your thoughts. That would be like trying to stop the river, a futile and exhausting battle. Do not try to create pleasant thoughts. That is just redecorating your prison cell. Simply watch. Wait for the next thought to arise, as if you are a cat watching a mouse hole. Be curious. When a thought appears, and it will, do not follow it. Do not engage with its story. Simply acknowledge its presence with a gentle, neutral mental note. Thinking. That is all. You might notice a thought about a task you need to do later. Instead of being pulled into the planning and the anxiety, you just notice it. A thought about work, and you let it go, letting it drift on down the river. A memory from your childhood might appear. Instead of diving into the nostalgia or the pain, you just watch it. A memory, and you let it float by. A judgment about yourself might arise. I'm not doing this right. Instead of believing it and creating a new story of failure, you just observe it. A thought of judgment. You can think of yourself as the vast, open sky. Your thoughts and emotions are simply clouds passing through. Some are dark and stormy thunderheads. Some are light, white, and puffy. Some are wispy and barely there. Throughout your life, you have believed that you are the clouds. When a dark cloud appears, you think, I am dark and stormy. But you are not the clouds. You are the sky. The sky is not harmed by the storm. The sky is not improved by the beautiful sunset. The sky simply allows all clouds to come and go, remaining its own vast, silent, peaceful self. When you begin this practice, you will find that the mind resists being observed. It has been the master for a long time, and it does not give up its position easily. It will try to pull you back into the river, back into the drama of the clouds. You will find yourself lost in thought again and again. This is not a failure. It is part of the process. The moment you realize, I have been lost in thought, you are, by definition, no longer lost. In that moment of realization, you are back on the riverbank. You are the sky again. The goal is not to have a perfectly empty mind. The goal is to become masterful at noticing when you have been swept away, and then, gently, compassionately, without any self-recrimination, returning to your post as the silent watcher. With each moment that you spend as the observer, something profound begins to shift inside you. The thoughts that once seemed so solid, so real, so absolutely true, begin to lose their density. They become more transparent. You can see through them. You realize they are not commands etched in stone, but merely suggestions, habits, echoes of the past. They are ghosts. And as their power over you diminishes, a space begins to open up in your life. It is a space of stillness, a space of peace. It is the space between a thought and your reaction to it. And in that space lies your freedom. It is the power to choose. As you become more established as the watcher on the riverbank, you will start to notice patterns in the flow. You'll see that many of the thoughts are not random. They seem to be connected, serving a single central narrative. You'll observe recurring themes, familiar anxieties, and habitual desires. It is as if the river is not just flowing randomly, but is being directed to serve the needs of a specific character, the protagonist in the mind's endless movie. This character is the voice that says, I, me, mine. It is the part of you that feels pride, that gets offended, that feels jealousy, that needs to be right, that craves recognition and fears invisibility. The unseen architect, the mind, has a master, a demanding client for whom it tirelessly builds all its structures of thought. To continue our journey into inner wealth, we must now turn our attention to this powerful, elusive entity. It is time to meet the one who has claimed your identity. It is time to unmask the ego. As you rest on the riverbank of your own awareness, watching the stream of thoughts flow by, you begin to notice something peculiar. The thoughts are not entirely random. Many of them seem to follow distinct patterns, like iron filings aligning to an unseen magnetic field. They orbit around a central character, the persistent protagonist in the mind's ongoing drama. This character is the voice that ceaselessly narrates the world in terms of I, me, and mine. It is the part of you that feels pride after a success, the sting of criticism, the heat of defensiveness. It is the one who crafts your identity, who tells you who you are based on your past, your profession, your relationships, your possessions. This entity is the ego. It is the imposter who has claimed your throne. It is crucial from the very beginning that we do not see the ego as an enemy to be vanquished. To declare war on the ego is simply the ego playing another, more clever game, the game of being a spiritual warrior. The ego loves this role. No, our task is not to fight it, but to understand it, to unmask it, to see it so clearly with the light of our awareness that its illusions simply dissolve, for it is made of shadow and cannot survive in the light of truth. The ego is not who you are. It is a construct, a phantom self that the mind has assembled for you since you were a child. It is a collage of past experiences, memories, social conditioning, beliefs given to you by others, and the conclusions you have drawn from your pains and pleasures. It creates a story, the story of me, which provides a sense of continuity and identity in the world. I am a good person. I am unlucky in love. I am a successful executive. I am a victim of my circumstances. These are not truths. They are just heavily repeated thoughts that the ego has woven into a personality. This false self was originally a necessary survival mechanism. In a complex world, it provided a stable reference point. But for most of us, this survival tool has long outlived its primary usefulness and has now become the tyrannical ruler of our inner kingdom, a jailer who has convinced us that its prison cell is a palace. The ego is fundamentally a creature of time. Its entire identity is stitched together from the fabric of the past, and its primary motivation is to project its survival into the future. It is perpetually anxious, always planning, scheming, and worrying to ensure its continuation. For this very reason, the ego cannot exist in the pure, timeless space of the present moment. The now is its kryptonite. Let us explore this further with our metaphor. Imagine the ego as a king, sitting on a grand throne in the center of your mind. But this is not a confident, benevolent ruler. This is a frightened king. He is old, frail, and deeply, deeply insecure, for he suspects a terrible secret. His kingdom is not real. It is an imaginary empire, built entirely from the mists of memory and the phantoms of future projection. Because his rule is based on such unstable ground, his primary policy is one of constant defense. He has ordered the construction of massive walls around his kingdom. These walls are not made of stone, but of something far more common: past hurts. Every insult, every failure, every rejection has become a brick in this defensive fortress. The mortar holding them together is a thick paste of old resentments and unforgiven grievances. Atop these walls, he builds watchtowers of future anxiety, constantly scanning the horizon for potential threats to his existence. He believes these walls keep him safe, but in reality, they only serve to isolate him in a state of perpetual fear. His second policy is one of desperate expansion. Because he feels an intrinsic emptiness, a fundamental lack within himself, he is constantly trying to fortify his identity by acquiring things from the outside world. He sends his armies out to conquer new territories: a bigger house, a more prestigious job title, a more attractive partner. He decorates the cold, empty halls of his imaginary palace with trophies of achievement, with the admiration of others, with expensive possessions. He believes that if he can just accumulate enough external validation, it will finally make him feel solid, real, and substantial. But it never does. Because inside the heavily fortified walls, beyond the glittering but hollow trophies, the throne room is cold and silent. The king is utterly alone, shivering on his throne, perpetually terrified of being attacked, of being exposed as the fraud he suspects himself to be. This is the tragic, secret life of the ego. It is a phantom that lives in constant terror of its own non-existence. Its frantic activity, its noise, its drama, are all just a desperate attempt to convince itself, and you, that it is real. You can see the work of this frightened king in your daily life. His favorite tools are simple and ubiquitous. His primary tool is comparison. The ego has no intrinsic sense of self, so it can only define itself in relation to others. It is constantly measuring: do I have more or less than them? Am I smarter or dumber? Am I more or less successful? This constant measuring is the engine of jealousy, envy, and pride. It creates a world of hierarchy, of winners and losers, ensuring that you can never be at peace, because there will always be someone above you to envy and someone below you to feel superior to. Another one of its favorite tools is the need to be right. For the ego, a simple disagreement is not a discussion about facts. It is a battle for survival. When its opinion or belief is challenged, the ego perceives it as a personal attack, a threat to its very foundation. If it is proven wrong, it feels a kind of psychic death. This is why people will argue with such ferocious, irrational intensity over the most trivial of matters. It is not about the topic, it is the ego fighting for its life. Perhaps the ego's most powerful tool is identification. It fuses the sense of I to external forms. It is not just a car, it is my car. It is not just an opinion, it is my opinion. It is not just a body, it is my body. It is not just a job, it is my identity. When these external forms are threatened, the ego reacts as if its own life is at stake. This explains the disproportionate rage that can arise from a small dent in a new car, or the immense offense taken when a cherished belief is questioned. The ego has invested its sense of self into that form, and so the violation of the form feels like a violation of the self. And finally, the ego thrives on grievance. It loves to complain. It cherishes its resentments. By telling and retelling the story of how you have been wronged, the ego solidifies its position of righteousness and superiority. It defines itself as the victim, and in doing so, makes the other person or the situation the enemy. This strengthens the walls of separation, which are essential for the ego's survival. A world without enemies is a world where the ego has no one to define itself against, and this is a terrifying prospect for it. Seeing these patterns is the key. The objective is not to stop the ego, for that is impossible. It is to see it. When you are in the middle of a heated argument, desperate to be right, can you find the space to observe this desperate need? When you are scrolling through social media and feel the sting of envy, can you watch that feeling arise without becoming it? When someone criticizes you and you feel the immediate flush of defensiveness, can you witness the ego's mechanism kicking in to protect its fragile identity? In the moment you see it, you are no longer it. In the moment of observation, you have stepped out of the character and have become the audience. The light of your awareness begins to shine on the frightened king, and in that light you see him not as a tyrant to be feared, but as a scared, trembling phantom to be understood with compassion. You see that all his posturing and all his noise are born of fear. And what is the source of this deep, primal fear? What is the foundational belief upon which this entire shaky kingdom of the ego has been built? If we trace all of the ego's strategies, the comparing, the needing, the complaining, the identifying back to their source, we find a single, core conviction. It is the profound and pervasive belief in lack. The ego only exists because it believes it is a separate fragment in a hostile universe, a being that is fundamentally incomplete and deficient. Its entire life is a frantic, hopeless struggle to add something to itself, possessions, status, knowledge, love, in order to feel whole. It is a beggar, constantly searching for scraps of validation to fill a bottomless void. But the void itself is an illusion. To truly and finally be free from the tyranny of the ego, we must address this foundational error. We must journey to the very heart of this illusion and expose it to the light. We must investigate the great illusion of lack. As we stand in the light of awareness, observing the frantic and fearful machinations of the ego, we can trace all of its desperate strategies back to a single, polluted wellspring. This is the source of its power, the foundational belief that gives it life. It is the great and pervasive illusion of lack. This is more than just an idea. It is a trance that has held humanity captive for millennia. It is the unquestioned lens through which the egoic mind perceives itself and the world. It is the ghost in the machine, the subtle whisper that undermines every joy and magnifies every fear. The illusion of lack is the root of all inner poverty. It is the belief that you are fundamentally incomplete, a fragment in need of mending, a vessel that is intrinsically empty and must be filled from the outside. This belief is the engine that drives all striving, all comparison, all greed, and all the quiet anxiety that hums beneath the surface of modern life. To attain inner wealth, we must confront this illusion directly. We must walk into the heart of this phantom territory and see it for what it is, the greatest lie ever told. This illusion operates like a subtle mental virus, passed down through generations, reinforced by culture, and whispered in the language we use every day. Its signature is the phrase, "not enough." You are not smart enough, not attractive enough, not disciplined enough, not rich enough, not spiritual enough. The goalposts are always shifting, ensuring that you are always falling short. The egoic mind, under the spell of this trance, becomes a highly efficient deficit detector. It is programmed to scan your life and your environment, not for what is present, but for what is missing. You could be standing in a magnificent garden, bursting with 1,000 blooming roses, and the mind of lack will fixate on the single weed growing in the corner. You could be in a loving relationship, and the mind of lack will obsess over the small habits of your partner that annoy you. It discounts the 99% that is whole and good, and creates a world of suffering out of the 1% that it deems imperfect. This creates a psychological structure of perpetual deferment. Happiness becomes a when, then proposition. When I get the promotion, then I will feel secure. When I lose 10 pounds, then I will feel worthy of love. When I finally buy the house, then I can relax. Wholeness is always placed in a projected future, a future that never arrives. This guarantees that true fulfillment can never be experienced, because it is never allowed to exist now. To grasp the sheer tragedy and absurdity of this illusion, let us use a story. Imagine a beggar sitting on a grimy old wooden box at a busy street corner. He has been there for 30 years. His entire identity is interwoven with the act of begging. His days are consumed by the singular focus of collecting enough spare change for his next meal. The box he sits on is nothing more than a hard, uncomfortable seat. a tool of his trade. He complains about his poverty to anyone who will listen. He looks with envy upon the well-dressed people who hurry past, their pockets full. He fears the cold of the coming night and the gnawing emptiness in his stomach. The box is simply a fact of his miserable life. One day, a kind stranger stops, not to give him a coin, but to ask a simple question. "What is in that box you have been sitting on all these years?" The beggar scoffs. "Nothing," he rasps. "It's just a box. It has always been just a box." The stranger persists gently. "But have you ever looked inside?" annoyed. And simply to get the stranger to leave, the beggar decides to humor him. With great, grunting effort, for he is old and the lid is rusted shut, he pries it open. As the lid creaks back, his eyes, accustomed to the dim grey of the street, are blinded by a dazzling light. The box is filled to the absolute brim with gold coins, sparkling jewels, priceless artifacts. He is, and has always been, a man of unimaginable wealth. He has spent 30 years of his life living in abject poverty, begging for scraps, while sitting on the source of all the abundance he could ever dream of. You are this beggar. Every single human being who is living identified with the ego is this beggar. The box of gold is your own inner being. It is the infinite, inexhaustible wellspring of peace, love, joy, and creativity that is your natural state. It is the inner wealth that is your birthright. The identity of the beggar, with all its stories of misery and lack, is your ego. The ego is so completely fixated on what it can get from the external world, the spare change of validation, approval, and fleeting pleasures, that it never, ever occurs to it to look within. It has been sitting on the treasure for so long that it has mistaken it for a hard, uncomfortable seat. The great spiritual journey is not about trying to accumulate gold coins from passers-by. It is the simple, yet world-shattering, act of looking inside the box. It is the realization that you are not lacking anything, you are not a beggar, you are the treasure itself. Let us take this realization and use it to deconstruct the core stories of lack that the ego uses to maintain its rule. The first and most common is, "I am not good enough." Feel the weight of that statement. It is a heavy, deadening belief. But what is it, really? It is just a thought appearing in your consciousness. Who is this I that is being judged as not good enough? It is the ego, the false self, comparing itself to some external, idealized image that it has created or adopted from society. It is comparing itself to someone else's success, someone else's body, someone else's life. Your true nature, the pure consciousness that is aware of this thought, is beyond all comparison. It is beyond the crude categories of good or bad. Can you say the sky is not good enough? Can you say the ocean is not good enough? They simply are. Your being has an intrinsic, absolute worth that has nothing to do with your achievements, your personality, or what anyone thinks of you. It is unearned, and it is infinite. The next story is, "I do not have enough." This usually refers to money or possessions, and we must acknowledge that in the world of form, external circumstances of poverty and need are real and painful. But the feeling of lack is an internal state, separate from external conditions. There are people with immense fortunes who live in a constant, agonizing state of lack, terrified of losing what they have. And there are people with very little in terms of material possessions who possess a profound and joyful sense of abundance, grateful for every small thing. The ego believes that having things will fill its inner emptiness. But this is a fallacy. True abundance is not about what you have. It is a state of being. It is the inner recognition of the fullness of life in this very moment. It is appreciating the air you are breathing, the beating of your own heart, the light entering your eyes. This is real wealth. The relentless focus on what you do not have is the beggar's trance, blinding you to the riches that are already yours. And perhaps the most painful story of all is, "I do not have enough love." The ego experiences itself as a separate, isolated entity, and so it believes love is a finite resource that exists outside of itself, something that must be earned, won, or deserved. It turns relationships into a marketplace of transaction of, "I will love you if you meet my needs." This turns the search for love into a source of immense suffering, But the truth is that your innermost being, the consciousness that animates you, is made of the very substance we call love. It is not something you need to get, it is what you are. A wave in the ocean does not need to search for water. It only needs to realize that it is, and always has been, part of the ocean. The spiritual quest for love is not a search, but a process of removing the barriers of fear, resentment, and false beliefs that you have built against the recognition of the love that you are. The antidote to this deep-seated trance of lack is not positive thinking or trying to convince yourself that you are abundant. It is the radical act of withdrawing your attention from the mind's stories of what is missing and placing it squarely on the reality of what is. The simple, undeniable isness of this moment. The feeling of your feet on the floor, the sound of these words, the sensation of breath entering and leaving your body. This is real. The story of lack is a ghost. This constant projection into a future where you will finally be whole, finally be secure, finally be worthy, is the very mechanism that perpetuates the illusion. It continually rips you out of the only place where life can be lived, where treasure can be found. To finally pry open the lid of that golden box, you must be willing to abandon the street corner of past and future. You must learn to anchor yourself, fully and completely, in the raw, vibrant, and infinitely abundant reality of the only time that ever truly exists. We must discover the power and the currency of the present moment. We have journeyed into the heart of the great illusion, the belief in lack that fuels the fearful ego. We have seen that this illusion cannot survive the light of awareness. But what is the fuel for this illusion? Where does it draw its power? It feeds on time, not the practical, clock-based time that we use to schedule appointments and organize our days, but a different kind of time, psychological time. This is the ego's compulsive need to live in a reality other than this one. It is the disease of dwelling in the past and obsessing about the future. This is the spell that rips you from the only point of power you will ever have, the only place where life actually unfolds. To find the treasure you are sitting on, you must withdraw your attention from the phantom worlds of past and future and invest it fully in the only currency that has any real value, the currency of the present moment. Let us first examine the prison of psychological time. The past, for the ego, is not a neutral record of events. It is a living, breathing entity, a collection of ghosts that haunt the present. These ghosts take the form of regret, guilt, resentment, and grievance. The mind compulsively replays old scenes, conversations, and failures, as if by re-examining them, it might somehow change them, but it cannot. All this does is infuse the present with the dead energy of what is no more. Every moment spent in regret is a moment you are robbing from the aliveness of now. Every moment spent nursing an old grievance is a moment you are choosing to drink poison and hope someone else will suffer. The past has no power over you. It has no reality whatsoever, except for the reality you give it by thinking about it in this moment. It is a cancelled check, yet you keep trying to cash it. The future is an even more seductive phantom. It is the ego's great promise of salvation or damnation. It creates a constant state of low-grade anxiety, a hum of worry about what is to come. What if I fail? What if I get sick? What if I lose what I have? The mind projects endless scenarios, most of them negative, creating stress and fear about things that have not happened and will likely never happen. Or it projects a fantasy of future happiness, the when-then syndrome we spoke of earlier. This is a trap that keeps you forever striving, forever dissatisfied with the present, sacrificing the tangible reality of today for an imaginary tomorrow that will never come. Living in psychological time, whether past or future, is the definition of inner poverty. You are giving away your only true possession, this very moment, in exchange for ghosts and phantoms. To understand how to escape this prison, let us use a new metaphor. Imagine that the present moment is a narrow doorway. It is not ornate or grand. It is simple, humble, and it is the only real entrance into a state of true being, into the kingdom of inner wealth. Now, imagine yourself as a traveler arriving at this doorway, but you are not traveling light. You are burdened with two enormous, impossibly heavy suitcases. One suitcase, patched and worn, is labeled the past. It is stuffed to the breaking point with every single grievance you have ever collected, every failure, every regret, every painful memory. The other suitcase, sleek but humming with anxious energy, is labeled the future. It is packed with every worry, every ambition, every fearful what-if scenario, and every condition you have placed on your own happiness. You arrive at the narrow door and you try to get through. You push, you shove, you try to squeeze the bags through with you, but you get stuck. The passage is too narrow. Frustrated, you might blame the door. You might complain that it is too small, that reality is too restrictive. You might sit down in front of the door, exhausted, and spend your days polishing your luggage, organizing its contents, complaining about its weight, never realizing the fundamental truth. The problem is not the door. The problem is the luggage. The only way to pass through the narrow doorway of the now is to put down the bags, to willingly drop the past, to willingly drop the future. Only your naked, unburdened awareness, free from the weight of psychological time, can slip through the doorway effortlessly. The great secret is that this act of putting down the bags is not a loss. It is the ultimate liberation. For what you find on the other side is not a new destination, but a new state of being. It is the peace, the aliveness, and the profound intelligence that only exist in the timeless dimension of the now. This is not an abstract philosophy. It is a practical skill, an art to be cultivated. Let us practice entering this doorway together, right now. You do not need to go anywhere. The door is right here. Gently allow your eyes to close or lower your gaze to the floor. Bring your attention, first, to your breath. Do not try to change it. Simply feel the physical sensation of the air entering your nostrils, cool and fresh. Follow it as it fills your lungs. Feel the gentle expansion of your chest and belly, and then feel the release as the air leaves your body, slightly warmer now. The breath is your most faithful anchor in the present moment. It is never in the past or in the future. It is always happening now. Whenever your mind tries to pull you into its stories, you can always return to the simple, physical reality of this single breath. Let the breath be the hand that holds you steady on the riverbank of awareness. Now, while remaining anchored in the breath, expand your awareness to include your senses. Listen, what do you hear? Do not label the sounds as a car, a bird, or the hum of a refrigerator. Just receive the raw sensory data, pure vibration, sound without a story attached. Notice how this simple act of listening pulls your attention out of the abstract world of thought and into the tangible reality of the present. Next, bring your awareness to the feeling of your body. Feel the points of contact between your body and the chair or the floor. Feel the weight of your hands resting in your lap. Feel the subtle sensation of the air on your exposed skin. Your body is a vast field of sensation, and it only ever exists in the now. You cannot feel your body yesterday. You cannot feel it tomorrow. You can only feel it now. This is a direct portal out of psychological time. Finally, bring your attention even deeper into the inner energy field of your body. Can you feel a subtle sense of aliveness pervading your hands? A slight tingling or vibration? Can you feel it in your feet, your legs, your arms? Do not search for it too hard. It is a gentle feeling. This is the feeling of life itself. This is your own presence. It is the quiet, constant hum of your being, which is always here, waiting patiently beneath the noisy surface of the mind. This inner aliveness is the treasure in the box. It is the gold. To feel it is to know that you are whole, complete, and lacking nothing in this moment. This is the state of inner wealth. It is not an idea. It is a felt reality. In this state of presence, you will notice something miraculous. Problems cannot survive here. A problem is a mental construct. It requires psychological time. It requires you to dwell on a past situation and project a future fear. In the now, there are no problems. There are only situations. And a situation can be dealt with. It can be accepted, or it can be left alone. The crippling weight of the problem dissolves in the light of your presence. As you learn to spend more and more time in this state of stillness, As you practice dropping your luggage and stepping through the narrow door, your perception of reality begins to shift. You begin to operate from a place of deep intuition and clarity. You stop listening to the frantic chatter of the mind and start listening through the profound wisdom of your own presence, your own body. You begin to sense a more subtle layer of reality that was previously completely obscured by the static of thought. It is a world not of separate, solid objects, but of interconnectedness, of flowing patterns. It is a world of energy. In the absolute stillness and silence of the present moment, you begin to hear a new language. It is not a language of words, but of feeling, of resonance. It is the universal language of vibration. And you are now ready to discover that you are not just a passive listener in this grand orchestra, but an active composer. You are now ready to explore the great symphony of vibration. As you learn to rest in the stillness of the present moment, a new faculty of perception begins to awaken. You start to sense a world beneath the world, a reality more fundamental than the one perceived by your five senses alone. The solid, separate objects you once saw begin to reveal their true nature. The chair you are sitting on, the air you are breathing, the body you inhabit, you begin to sense them not as solid, inert matter, but as a shimmering, vibrant dance of energy. Ancient mystics and modern physicists, in their own languages, have arrived at the same startling conclusion. The universe is not made of things, but of patterns. It is not a collection of nouns, but a symphony of verbs. At its core, everything is vibration. A distant star, a silent stone, a fleeting thought, each is a unique vibrational pattern, a note in the infinite symphony of existence. And you, in your very essence, are not just a listener to this music. You are a vital part of the orchestra. This may sound abstract, but you experience it every day. Think of an orchestra tuning up before a performance. It is a chaos of discordant sounds. But when the conductor raises the baton, all those individual vibrations align into a single, coherent wave of music that can bring tears to your eyes or joy to your heart. The music is an invisible force, a structured vibration that has a direct and powerful effect on your emotional state. In the same way, think of the blades of a fan. When still, they are distinct and separate. But when they spin at high speed, they cease to be separate blades and become a single shimmering disc, a blur of energy. So it is with the universe. What appears solid to our limited senses is simply energy vibrating at a very slow, dense frequency. What appears as light or sound is energy vibrating at a much higher, faster frequency. Now, let us bring this cosmic principle into your inner world. Your thoughts are not just silent, private events. Every thought is a pulse of energy, a distinct vibration. A thought of judgment feels heavy and dense. A thought of forgiveness feels light and open. But even more powerful than thoughts are your emotions. Emotions are vast waves of energy that flow through your entire being. They are your body's direct reaction to your thoughts. Think of the felt difference between the energy of anger and the energy of peace. Anger is a hot, jagged, chaotic vibration. It is contractive. It makes your muscles tense, your jaw clench. Peace, on the other hand, is a calm, coherent, expansive vibration. It allows your body to relax and open. Every possible human emotion, every mood, every state of being has a unique and measurable vibrational signature. To understand your power in this vibrational universe, imagine yourself as a living, breathing, broadcasting tower. You are the most sophisticated transmission technology in existence. You are constantly, at every moment, sending out a signal into the quantum field of the universe. This signal is not made of radio waves. It is made of your consciousness, your feeling, state, your being. The frequency of this signal is determined by your dominant emotional state. We can imagine a kind of vibrational scale. At the very bottom of the dial, we find the densest, heaviest frequencies: shame, guilt, and apathy. These emotions broadcast a signal of powerlessness. A little higher up the scale, we find fear, grief, and anger. These are still heavy, contractive energies, broadcasting a signal of separation and struggle. As we move up the dial, we come to courage, which is the pivotal point where we begin to take our power back. Then comes neutrality, willingness, and acceptance. The energy here begins to feel lighter, more expansive, and at the top of the dial, we find the highest, fastest, and most powerful frequencies available to a human being: love, joy, peace, and gratitude. These states broadcast a clear, coherent, and powerful signal of wholeness, connection, and effortless flow. It is essential to understand that this is not a moral scale. Low is not bad, and high is not good. A low note on a cello is not morally inferior to a high note on a violin. They are simply different qualities of vibration, creating different effects. This is where we must re-examine and clarify a popular spiritual concept: the law of attraction. In its common, simplified form, this law has often been misunderstood as a kind of cosmic vending machine. The idea is that if you just think positive thoughts about what you want, the universe will deliver it to you. This has led to much confusion and frustration because it is an incomplete picture. The universe does not respond to your words. It does not even respond to your fleeting thoughts. The universe responds to the one thing that is absolutely true about you in any given moment: your vibrational offering. It responds to the frequency you are broadcasting from your state of being. The more accurate way to describe this principle is as the law of resonance. Like energy resonates with like energy. This is a fundamental law of physics. If you have two finely tuned tuning forks of the same pitch and you strike one, the other, even across the room, will begin to vibrate and hum in sympathy. It has no choice. It is resonating with the frequency that matches its own. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. Let that sink in. If your dominant broadcast is one of frustration and lack, why is this so hard? I never have enough money. Then you are vibrating at the frequency of hardship and not enough. The universe, like a perfect mirror, will dutifully reflect back to you circumstances, people, and events that resonate with that exact frequency. You will encounter more frustrating situations, more evidence of lack. It is not punishing you. It is simply matching your signal. If, on the other hand, your dominant broadcast is one of gratitude and appreciation for what you already have, you are vibrating at the frequency of fullness and abundance. By the law of resonance, you will begin to notice and attract more experiences that match this feeling of abundance. The universe is not rewarding you. It is simply responding to the broadcast. This is why the feeling state is everything. You cannot deceive the universe. You can say, "I am abundant," 1,000 times a day. But if you feel poor, your broadcast is poverty, and that is what will be mirrored back to you. The work is not to change your words, but to change your feeling state. You must tune your inner receiver to the reality you wish to experience. This knowledge is the ultimate empowerment. You are not a helpless cork bobbing on the waves of a random ocean. You are the broadcasting tower. Your emotional state, your inner vibration, is your point of creative power. This means your primary work in life is not to struggle and strain to change the external world. Your primary work is to tend to the quality of your own inner vibration. Your focus shifts from manipulating the reflection in the mirror to changing the face that is casting the reflection. You become a gardener of your inner world, consciously cultivating the feelings of love, peace, and gratitude, knowing that as you do so, the garden of your outer world will naturally begin to blossom in harmony with your inner state. So, the great and practical question now arises: how do we do this? How do we consciously change our frequency? How do we move up the vibrational scale from a state of fear to a state of love, especially when external circumstances seem to justify the fear? While practices like meditation and spending time in the now are foundational, for they quiet the static of the ego, one of the most powerful and direct methods for altering your vibration is to change the very lens through which you interpret your reality. It is about changing the meaning you give to the events of your life. We must learn to become a conscious alchemist, a master of transformation. An alchemist, in the ancient sense, was not just someone who tried to turn literal lead into literal gold. The true alchemists were mystics who knew how to transform the dense, heavy, leaden experiences of human suffering, fear, grief, and pain into the shining, luminous gold of wisdom, compassion, and spiritual freedom. To become the conscious composer of your life's symphony, you must first master the sacred alchemy of perception. Having discovered that you are a broadcasting tower of energy, sending out a signal that shapes your reality, you arrive at a pivotal question. How can you possibly broadcast a frequency of peace when your world is in chaos? How can you radiate love when you are met with animosity? How can you feel abundant when the evidence of lack seems to be all around you? This is the point where many spiritual journeys stumble. It seems like a paradox. You need to feel good to attract good things, but the bad things are making you feel bad. Here, we move from the what to the how. We learn the sacred art of inner alchemy. True alchemy is not about turning metal into gold. It is about transforming consciousness. It is the profound understanding that it is never the external event, but the meaning we assign to it that determines its effect on us. You have the power to change the meaning, and in doing so, you change your vibration, you change your life. You become the alchemist of your own perception. In the default state of consciousness, the state ruled by the ego, we are not alchemists. We are mere reactors. The world is perceived as happening to us, and we are at the mercy of its whims. Events are immediately and automatically sorted into two crude categories, good and bad. Good events are things that please the ego, praise, financial gain, pleasure, success. We react to these by clinging to them, trying to hold on to the fleeting pleasure they provide. This clinging immediately creates the fear of loss, a subtle, anxious undertone that poisons the very joy we seek. Bad events are things that threaten the ego, criticism, financial loss, pain, failure. We react to these with resistance. We blame, we complain, we resent. This resistance is a powerful, low-frequency broadcast. It is the signal of victimhood. In this reactive mode, you are a puppet. Your emotional strings are pulled by every passing person, every piece of news, every circumstance. Your vibrational state is not your own. It is a byproduct of the world around you. This perception automatically locks you into the dense, heavy frequencies of fear, anger, and grief, guaranteeing that you will resonate with and experience more of the same. Now, imagine a different way. Imagine that your consciousness is a master alchemist's workshop. Life, in its infinite wisdom, does not deliver finished products to your door. It does not send you neatly packaged bars of worthless lead or shining gold. It delivers raw, unrefined ore. This ore is the neutral, objective event, as it happens in reality, stripped of all judgment. A job is lost, a relationship ends, a physical diagnosis is given, a plan fails. The amateur alchemist, the one still operating from the ego's perspective, looks at this dense, grey ore and immediately declares it to be lead. He wails, "Why did the universe send me this worthless junk?" He blames the mine, he blames the delivery person, he complains about his terrible luck. He pushes the ore into a corner of his workshop where it sits and oxidizes, poisoning the air with the toxic fumes of his own resentment and self-pity. The ore itself was neutral, but his perception has turned it into poison. The master alchemist, however, sees this same raw ore with entirely different eyes. He does not see lead, he sees potential. He knows that within the dense, dull matrix of this challenging event, a vein of pure gold lies hidden. He does not waste his energy blaming the universe for the delivery. He rolls up his sleeves and gets to work. His tools are not the crude hammers of resistance and blame. His tools are subtle and far more powerful. They are awareness, curiosity, and a radical shift in questioning. The fire he uses to heat the ore is the focused, unwavering intensity of his own conscious attention. He places the difficult circumstance into the crucible of his awareness and, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" he asks the transformative, alchemical questions. What is the lesson hidden within this? What strength is this situation forging in me? What cherished illusion is this experience shattering? How can this event, which my ego despises, actually serve the awakening of my soul? Through this sacred process of conscious inquiry, a miraculous transformation occurs. The intense heat of his awareness burns away the dense dross of the ego's story, the victimhood, the blame, the self-pity. What remains is the pure, shining, incorruptible gold. the lead of a painful breakup is transmuted into the gold of self-love and resilience. The lead of a financial loss is transformed into the gold of discovering a deeper, unshakable inner security. The lead of a frightening illness becomes the gold of profound gratitude for the simple gift of life. The alchemist understands a fundamental truth. The universe is not happening to you, it is happening for you. It is a divine conspiracy designed for your ultimate awakening. Let us apply this alchemical perspective to some of life's greatest challenges. Consider a difficulty you are facing right now. The unconscious perception is to see it as an obstacle, a nuisance blocking your path to happiness. The alchemical perception reframes it as your teacher. It is your spiritual gymnasium. Life has presented you with this specific weight because it knows you have the capacity to lift it. And in the lifting, you will develop spiritual muscles you did not know you had. Patience, creativity, humility, perseverance. The obstacle is not in the way. The obstacle is the way. The path to the mountaintop is not a detour around the steep parts, it is the steep parts. Consider the experience of pain, whether emotional or physical. The default perception is to see pain as an enemy, a malfunction to be silenced and suppressed as quickly as possible with distractions, addictions, or medications. The alchemist sees pain as a sacred messenger. Pain is a signal from your deeper intelligence that something in your life or your consciousness is out of alignment. It is a loving, if severe, invitation to look deeper. Intense emotional pain is often pointing directly to a false belief you are holding, an attachment you need to release. Physical pain is often a message from your body, asking for a change in your lifestyle or a release of stored emotional trauma. Instead of shooting the messenger, the alchemist gets quiet and listens to its message. Consider the profound challenge of loss. When we lose a person we love, a job that defined us, or a role we cherished, the ego experiences it as a terrifying void. The alchemist knows that while the pain of loss is real and must be honored, the emptiness it creates is also a sacred space. It is only by emptying a cup that it can be filled with something new. Loss is an invitation from the universe to discover who you are without the external thing you thought you needed. It forces you to let go of a superficial, form-based identity and discover a deeper, more formless, and therefore more unshakable sense of self. The dissolution of one form always creates the space for a new and often more deeply aligned form to arise. This entire practice can be distilled into one potent, life-altering question that you can carry with you. In any situation, especially one that feels difficult, painful, or unjust, pause, take a breath, and ask with genuine curiosity, how is this serving me? This single question is a powerful tool of transmutation. It immediately shifts you from the powerless perspective of a victim to the empowered perspective of a student of life. It presupposes that there is hidden gold in every circumstance. It aligns you with the wisdom of the universe, which is always working for your highest good, even when its methods are mysterious to the limited mind of the ego. This alchemical power to transform your perception and therefore your vibration is your birthright. But it requires one foundational element to even begin. You cannot transmute an experience that you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot find the gold in an ore that you will not even allow into your workshop. The frightened amateur alchemist, seeing the raw material of a painful event, tries to fight it off, deny its reality, or push it away. This act of resistance is the primary barrier to all transformation. To become a master alchemist, you must first possess the universal solvent, the one substance that can dissolve all resistance and make any transformation possible. Before you can transform lead into gold, you must first learn the gentle yet infinitely powerful art of acceptance. We have arrived at the door of the alchemist's workshop, understanding that we must transform the raw ore of our experience, not fight it. But the door is locked. The key, the universal solvent that dissolves all resistance and allows the great work of transformation to begin, is one of the most misunderstood and feared concepts in the human lexicon. The word is surrender. To the ego, this word is synonymous with defeat. It means weakness, failure, giving up, letting the opposition win. The ego is a warrior, and a warrior does not surrender. But we are not on the ego's battlefield. We are on a journey of awakening. And on this journey, surrender is not an act of weakness, but an expression of the highest wisdom, an act of profound strength and intelligent grace. It is the conscious decision to end a war that you can never win, the war against reality. The natural state of the ego is one of resistance. It is a constant internal no to what is. When a situation arises that the ego does not like, it immediately declares, "This shouldn't be happening." When life deviates from its meticulously crafted plans, it insists, "This is not fair." When faced with a reality it cannot control, it protests, "I want it to be different." This internal no is a declaration of war on the present moment. It creates an immense and exhausting friction between your mind and the unfolding of life. This friction is the very source of what we call suffering. Anger is the friction of resisting what someone else has done. Frustration is the friction of resisting a situation you cannot immediately change. Anxiety is the friction of resisting a future you cannot control. This inner war is utterly futile. Arguing with reality is as insane as arguing with the rain. You can stand outside, shake your fist at the sky, and scream that it should not be raining, but the rain will continue to fall. The rain is indifferent to your opinion. The only result of your resistance is that you get soaked and hoarse. Reality is as it is. Your internal no does not change the external event one iota, but it creates a firestorm of turmoil inside of you. To grasp the power of surrender, let us imagine that life is a vast and powerful river. This river is not chaotic. It possesses its own deep, inscrutable intelligence. It knows its course. It is flowing, with absolute certainty, towards the great ocean of wholeness, of universal consciousness. Now, imagine yourself in this river. The ego, whose primary directive is to control, is terrified of the river's power. Its immediate instinct is to fight it. It tries to swim upstream, against the immense, irresistible current. It thrashes and kicks, its muscles burning, its lungs gasping for air. It believes it is exerting its will, that it is a noble struggle. But from a higher perspective, it is a spectacle of utter madness. It is a tiny human form, exhausting its life force in a pointless battle against a godlike power. This is the state of resistance. It is stressful, it is exhausting, and it is destined for failure. Surrender, in this context, is not about letting yourself drown. It is the moment of supreme intelligence when you realize the futility of the struggle. It is the conscious, courageous decision to stop thrashing, to stop fighting the current. It is the act of turning around, relaxing your body, lying back, and allowing the river of life to carry you. To the ego, this is the ultimate horror. "But I won't be in control," it screams. "I won't know where I'm going." And that is true. You are giving up the illusion of control. But what you are gaining is infinitely greater. You are aligning yourself with the intelligence and power of the river itself. As you relax into the flow, you discover that the river knows the way far better than you do. It skillfully navigates around sharp rocks of conflict that you, in your blind struggle, would have crashed into. It carries you through serene landscapes of unexpected beauty and opportunity that you would never have found on your own. You are no longer powered by your own frantic, limited efforts. You are powered by the effortless grace of life itself. You are not losing control. You are gaining a connection to a power that is infinitely wiser and more powerful than your small, separate self. It is absolutely crucial here to distinguish between surrender and its cynical cousin, resignation. They may look similar from the outside, but their inner vibrational quality is entirely different. Resignation is egoic defeat. It is a state of repressed anger and bitterness. Its energy is heavy, sullen, and passive. Resignation says, "Fine, I give up. Life is unfair, and there's nothing I can do about it. This is terrible, but I'll just have to put up with it." This is the vibration of victimhood. It is a low-frequency state of apathy and helplessness that has no power. Surrender, or acceptance, is the complete opposite. It is an active, conscious, and empowered state. It is a vibrant and courageous yes to the reality of the present moment. It does not mean that you like the situation. It does not mean you approve of it. It certainly does not mean that you will not take action to change it. It simply means that for this moment, you will cease to be at war with what is. The energy of surrender is one of profound peace, clarity, and strength. It says, "This is the situation as it exists right now. I do not prefer it, but I accept that it is here. I will not waste my energy fighting the undeniable reality of this moment." Now, from this place of inner stillness and clarity, what is the wisest course of action? Acceptance of what is the necessary prerequisite for all effective and intelligent change. You cannot successfully navigate a journey if you refuse to acknowledge your starting point. Imagine trying to use a map to get to a new city, all the while insisting that you are already at your destination. The map is useless to you. Only when you first accept, "Here is where I am now," can you begin to plot an effective course. Action that comes from a place of resistance and anger is chaotic, reactive, and often creates more problems. Action that comes from a place of deep acceptance of the present moment is calm, intelligent, and aligned with a greater power. You can practice this right now. Bring to mind a small, recurring situation in your life that irritates you. It could be a person's habit, a daily commute, anything. Feel for a moment the familiar energy of resistance, that internal no, the tightening in your shoulders or your jaw. Now, just as an experiment, inwardly, silently, say yes to the situation. Not a resigned yes, but a calm, open yes. Yes, this is how it is right now. Feel what happens in your body. Can you sense a subtle release of tension? A small opening, a space of peace where there was once only the friction of resistance. This inner yes to the unchangeable reality of the moment is your first step in becoming a master alchemist. It is you allowing the raw ore into your workshop. When you surrender your inner resistance to what is, a deep peace that passes all understanding begins to arise within you. You are no longer hemorrhaging vast amounts of life force in a futile internal war. This newly liberated energy becomes available for creative solutions, for healing, for joy. This state of profound inner peace, born of acceptance, creates the fertile ground for an even higher vibrational consciousness to emerge. When you stop obsessively focusing on what is wrong with the present moment and instead allow it to be exactly as it is, your perception naturally begins to shift. You start to notice what is right with it. Your focus moves from the illusion of lack to the reality of what is present. In this space of open, non-resistant awareness, the heart, which was once clenched tight in the fist of resistance, begins to open. And the natural, effortless, and beautiful consequence of an open and accepting heart is the feeling that is the very signature of abundance itself. It is the feeling of gratitude. Having laid down the weapons of resistance and allowed yourself to be carried by the river of life, you arrive in a new inner landscape. It is a place of peace, a quiet field born from the fertile soil of acceptance. In this field, the most powerful and transformative seeds can be sown. We now come to the practice that is the golden key to unlocking a permanent state of inner wealth. It is the practice of gratitude. This is not the polite, mechanical thank you of social custom. This is a profound spiritual technology, a conscious shift in perception that has the power to instantly alter your vibrational frequency and, therefore, the reality you experience. Gratitude is the direct and absolute antidote to the ego's primary delusion of lack. It is the ultimate vibrational shifter, the fastest and most direct path from the feeling of poverty to the feeling of abundance. The mechanics of gratitude are simple, yet profoundly effective. The ego, as we have discovered, is a finely tuned lack detector. Its job is to scan for what is wrong, what is missing, what is threatening. It thrives on complaint, criticism, and worry. Gratitude is the exact opposite. It is the conscious training of your attention to scan for what is right, what is present, what is a blessing. In any given moment, you cannot simultaneously hold a genuine feeling of gratitude and a feeling of resentment or fear. They are mutually exclusive vibrations. The moment you introduce genuine gratitude into your consciousness, the lower frequencies of the ego begin to dissolve. It is like turning on a bright light in a dark room. The darkness cannot fight the light. It simply ceases to be. On a vibrational level, gratitude is a powerful declaration to the universe. When you feel true gratitude, you are broadcasting the unambiguous frequency of wholeness. You are sending out the signal, I have enough, I am cared for, all is well. By the immutable law of resonance, the universe must then reflect back to you more experiences, circumstances, and people that match this high-frequency broadcast. You literally begin to attract more things to be grateful for. Let us use the metaphor of your mind as a vast and fertile garden. For most of your life, the ego has been the default gardener. Its methods are careless. It allows the winds of culture and conditioning to blow whatever seeds they will into the soil. It then uses the precious sunlight and water of your attention to nourish the seeds of complaint, worry, and dissatisfaction. It focuses intently on the weeds of what is wrong in your life, watering them daily with its negative focus. Naturally, the harvest of such a garden is a field of bitter herbs, anxiety, frustration, and a perpetual feeling that something is missing. The practice of gratitude is the act of becoming a conscious master gardener. You take back the power of your own attention. You understand that your focus is the most precious resource you have. Instead of unconsciously watering the weeds, you make the deliberate choice to water the flowers. You consciously choose to plant and cultivate the seeds of appreciation. At first, this practice may feel like an effort. The old, thorny weeds of habitual complaint are well established. But you persist. You begin small. You turn the sunlight of your attention toward a simple pleasure. The taste of your morning coffee, the warmth of the sun on your skin, the comfort of your bed at night. You water this tiny seed with a moment of genuine, felt appreciation. Thank you for this. The next day, you find another small flower, a kind word from a stranger, a beautiful song on the radio, a moment of quiet. You water that one too, day by day, as you consistently and consciously choose to focus on what is good, what is a blessing. Something magical begins to happen in the garden of your mind. The small flowers of gratitude begin to grow stronger, more vibrant. Their roots deepen, and they begin to crowd out the old weeds of negativity. Over time, the entire landscape of your consciousness is transformed. What was once a field of thorns becomes a lush, beautiful garden, producing a magnificent and continuous harvest of joy, peace, and a deep, unshakable feeling of abundance. The true power of gratitude, however, is not in the mental listing of things. It is in the embodied feeling of appreciation. It is an alchemy that must take place in the heart, not just the head. Let us enter the workshop of the heart and practice this together. Close your eyes. Let go of the abstract idea of gratitude, and let's anchor it in your direct experience. Begin with your own body. For a moment, feel a sense of gratitude for your heart, this tireless servant that has been beating faithfully for you every second of every day, since long before you were born, asking for nothing in return. Feel gratitude for your lungs, which constantly draw in the breath of life from the universe and release what is no longer needed, connecting you with everything that breathes. Feel gratitude for your eyes, these incredible orbs that allow you to perceive the miracle of a sunrise, the face of a loved one, the vastness of the starry sky. Feel gratitude for your legs that carry you, your hands that create, your ears that hear. Do not think about how your body looks, but feel gratitude for the sheer, staggering miracle that it is. Now, let us expand this feeling to the simple gifts of your life, the things the ego takes completely for granted. If you have access to clean water, the next time you take a sip, pause for a moment. Feel the coolness of it, the life-giving essence of it, and feel a wave of gratitude for this incredible luxury that much of the world does not have. Before you eat your next meal, take a moment to be grateful for the food on your plate, for the earth that grew it, the sun and rain that nourished it, and the many hands that brought it to you. Feel gratitude for the roof over your head, the simple sanctuary that protects you from the elements. These are not small things. They are profound miracles that we have been conditioned to overlook. To feel gratitude for them is to awaken from the trance of entitlement. And now, for the most advanced stage of this alchemical practice, can you find gratitude even in your challenges? This does not mean being grateful for pain or suffering itself, It means being grateful for what the challenge is revealing to you. Bring to mind a difficulty you are facing. Without getting lost in the story, see if you can genuinely say, "I am grateful for this situation because it is teaching me patience. I am grateful for this heartbreak because it is cracking my heart open and showing me how to love myself. I am grateful for this uncertainty because it is forcing me to find my security within, not without." This is the ultimate act of transforming lead into gold. It is seeing the hand of grace even in the fist of adversity. As you cultivate this practice, gratitude ceases to be something you do and begins to become who you are. It becomes the very lens through which you perceive the world. Life is no longer seen as a series of problems to be solved or threats to be managed. It becomes a continuous unfolding of gifts to be received and appreciated. The smallest things become imbued with a sense of wonder. You wake up in the morning not with a feeling of dread for the day ahead, but with a feeling of gratitude for the simple, astonishing gift of another day of life. This is the state of abiding abundance. As you become established in this state of profound, embodied gratitude, something remarkable happens to your sense of self. Your perception begins to expand beyond your own personal sphere. You feel gratitude for your breath, and you realize it connects you to the air, to the trees, to the entire atmosphere of the planet. You feel gratitude for your food, and you realize it connects you to the earth, the sun, and the vast chain of life and human effort. You feel gratitude for your relationships, and you sense your connection to the entire web of humanity. The feeling of being a separate, isolated ego, which is the root of all suffering, begins to dissolve in the warm, unifying light of gratitude. You begin to sense, not as an intellectual concept, but as a lived reality, a deep and profound truth about the nature of existence. Everything is connected. You are not an island, entire of itself. You are a vital and inseparable part of a vast, invisible tapestry. As you cultivate a state of embodied gratitude, you begin to notice that the feeling itself points beyond you. You feel grateful for the air in your lungs, and you sense your intimate connection to the trees, the oceans, and the entire atmosphere of the planet. You feel grateful for the food on your table, and you are immediately connected to the sun, the earth, and the vast web of human and natural effort that brought it to you. The very act of being grateful is an act of acknowledging relationship. It is the dawning recognition that you do not and cannot exist in isolation. This realization is the gateway to one of the most profound shifts in human consciousness, the dissolution of the illusion of separation and the awakening to the reality of interconnection. The single greatest and most painful delusion under which humanity labors is the belief in the separate self. It is the feeling of being a lonely I, encapsulated in a skin-bound body, looking out at a world of you and it. This feeling of being a fragment in a fragmented universe is the root of all fear. If you are separate, you are inherently vulnerable. You must compete for scarce resources. You must defend your tiny territory of self against a world of others. You must live in constant, low-grade fear of annihilation, because a separate fragment can always be broken or destroyed. This foundational belief in separation is the source of all human conflict. It is what breeds loneliness, jealousy, and the us versus them mentality that has fueled every argument, every injustice, and every war throughout history. It is the original sin of perception, the primary error that gives rise to all other forms of suffering. But it is an illusion. It is a trick of perception, a story told by the ego, but it is not the fundamental truth of your being. To understand this truth, let us imagine that all of existence, every galaxy, every star, every planet, every living being, every thought is a single, infinitely vast and intricate tapestry. This tapestry is a masterpiece of unimaginable beauty, woven with threads of light and shadow, joy and sorrow, form and emptiness. Now, imagine yourself as one single thread within this cosmic artwork. If your perception were limited to only your immediate vicinity, you would experience yourself as just a thread. You would feel your own length, your own color, your own texture. You would see other threads next to you, above you, below you, and perceive them as entirely separate entities. You might feel proud to be a shimmering golden thread, or ashamed to be a simple grey one. You might feel envy for the threads that seem to be in a more important part of the design. You would have no concept of the magnificent image that you are an integral part of creating. This limited, isolated perspective is the perspective of the ego. Spiritual awakening is the process of the thread waking up to the reality of the tapestry. It is as if your consciousness begins to zoom out. Suddenly, you see that you are not isolated at all. You see that you are intrinsically woven into the very fabric of existence. You are supported by the countless threads below you, and, in turn, you are supporting the threads above you. You realize that your meaning and your beauty do not exist in isolation, but are derived entirely from your relationship to all the other threads. The brilliant golden thread you once envied is not your competitor. Its brightness actually enhances the richness of your own color. The humble grey thread you once pitied is not inferior. Its quiet strength provides the essential contrast that gives the entire design its depth and meaning. And then comes the ultimate realization. You are not just a thread in the tapestry, you are the tapestry, experiencing and expressing itself as a single thread in this specific time and place. There is no separation. There is only the one, unified, magnificent work of art. This is not just a beautiful poetic idea. It is a truth pointed to by both modern science and ancient wisdom. Look at your own body. You think of it as a solid, separate me, but it is a cooperative of some 30 trillion cells, each one a conscious living entity, all working in perfect, selfless harmony to create the whole. Your body is in a constant, fluid exchange with the external world. The air you just breathed out, full of atoms from your own being, is now being inhaled by the plant in the corner or the person across the room. The carbon atoms that form your physical structure were forged in the heart of a dying star billions of years ago and have traveled across galaxies to be here, as you, for a little while. You are not a visitor in the universe. You are a temporary, wave-like expression of the universe. Consider a great forest. We see it as a collection of individual trees. But scientists now know that beneath the ground lies a vast, complex network of fungal threads, a wood wide web that connects the root systems of all the trees. Through this network, they share nutrients, they send warning signals about pests or drought, and they support their young and elderly. The forest is not a collection of trees, it is a single, superorganism. The health of one is inextricably linked to the health of all. Humanity, and indeed all of life, is no different. We are all connected by an invisible, energetic network. This deep reality of interconnection is the reason that acts of genuine kindness and compassion feel so profoundly good. The ego, with its logic of self-interest, cannot truly comprehend selfless kindness. What's in it for me, it asks, but your soul understands. When you perform an act of true compassion, when you help someone without any thought of reward, your soul recognizes itself in the other. It is the tapestry acknowledging its own nature. In that moment, the artificial boundary between you and me dissolves, and this return to our true, unified state is experienced as a wave of joy and expansion. This is also why the suffering of another can cause a pang in our own heart. We are not separate. On a deep, energetic level, we know that their suffering is, in some way, our suffering. Their liberation is our liberation. When you begin to live from this awareness of interconnection, your entire value system begins to shift. The guiding question of your actions changes from the ego's, "What can I get?" to the soul's, "What can I give? How does my action affect the whole?" The exploitation of other people, of animals, of the planet itself, is no longer seen as a viable strategy for gain, but as a nonsensical act of self-harm. You cannot poison the river without eventually poisoning yourself, because you are part of the same watershed. You cannot harm another thread in the tapestry without damaging the integrity and beauty of the whole design, a design of which you are an inseparable part. Your personal well-being becomes directly linked to the well-being of the collective. This profound realization that we are not isolated fragments, but interconnected expressions of a single, unified whole provides the essential foundation for understanding one of the most practical and widely misunderstood laws of the universe. If it is true that everything is one indivisible fabric, then it must also be true that any action, any intention, any vibration sent out from one point in the tapestry must inevitably ripple through the entire fabric, and its echo must, by necessity, return to its source. This is not a moralistic system of cosmic reward and punishment managed by some celestial judge. It is the simple, impersonal, and unavoidable physics of a unified energy field. This is the true, deep, and practical meaning of the law of karma. Having awakened to the profound reality that all of life is a single, interconnected tapestry, we are now ready to understand one of the universe's most elegant and practical operating principles. If it is true that we are all threads in one fabric, then any vibration we emit must ripple through the whole and eventually return to us. This is the law of karma. But here, we must pause and dismantle the heavy edifice of fear and superstition that has been built around this simple, beautiful law. Karma is not a cosmic system of reward and punishment. There is no celestial accountant sitting on a cloud, marking your good and bad deeds in a great ledger. The universe is not a judge. Karma is not about morality. It is about physics. It is a law as neutral, as impersonal, and as reliable as the law of gravity. It is the universe's perfect and immediate feedback system, designed not to punish you, but to teach you, to guide you back to harmony with the whole. The ego, with its dualistic worldview, has misinterpreted karma to suit its own narrative of separation and judgment. It sees a world of good people and bad people, and so it projects this illusion onto karma, imagining it as a divine police force that eventually punishes the wicked and rewards the virtuous. This misunderstanding creates two toxic byproducts. The first is fear. People perform good deeds, not from a place of genuine, overflowing compassion, but from a subtle fear of future retribution or a selfish desire for future reward. This is not enlightened action. It is a spiritual transaction, a negotiation still driven by the ego's agenda of self-preservation. The second byproduct is a chilling form of spiritual pride. When seeing another person suffer, the egoic mind might think, well, that must be their bad karma. This is a gross and compassionateless distortion. It uses a sacred law as a justification for judgment and emotional distance, reinforcing the very illusion of separation that the law of karma is designed to help us overcome. We must wipe the slate clean of these fearful interpretations and see the law in its pure, original light. To truly understand karma, imagine that you find yourself standing in a vast, circular room. The walls, the floor, and the ceiling are all constructed of flawless, seamless mirrors. Everywhere you look, you see yourself. This room is your life. The mirrors are the universe. Now, observe the law in action. If you smile a genuine, warm smile, you are instantly met by the reflection of 1,000 smiling faces. The entire room feels joyful, open, and friendly. If you scowl, contorting your face in anger and resentment, you are immediately surrounded by 1,000 hostile, angry faces, and the room becomes a threatening and terrifying place. If you extend your hand openly in a gesture of giving, 1,000 hands extend back toward you in offering. If you clench your fist and try to punch one of the reflections, the only thing you accomplish is to shatter your own knuckles against the unyielding surface of the mirror. The mirror is not judging you. It is not rewarding you for the smile or punishing you for the punch. It is simply, perfectly, and impersonally reflecting back to you the energy that you yourself are emitting. It has no choice in the matter. It is its nature to reflect. This is karma. It is the universe acting as a perfect mirror to the quality of your own consciousness. Your thoughts, your words, and your actions are the expressions you make in this hall of mirrors. The universe doesn't decide to send you back a similar experience. The cause and the effect are not two separate events. They are two sides of the same coin, a single, indivisible energetic event within a unified field. The action of punching the mirror and the pain in your hand are part of one and the same act. The energy you send out is the energy that returns. There is no time lag in the quantum field. The echo is inherent in the sound. This law operates on a level far more subtle than just physical actions. The intention and the vibration behind the action are what truly matter. An act that appears good on the surface can create a negative karmic echo if its root is in the ego. Imagine giving a large sum of money to a charity, but doing so with a heart full of pride, a desire for public recognition, and a feeling of superiority over those who give less. The energy you are emitting is that of ego inflation. The mirror of the universe will then reflect back to you situations that reinforce that ego, perhaps by bringing you more opportunities for pride, which will ultimately lead to a fall, or by showing you how hollow that external validation truly is. Now imagine someone giving a single dollar, a pittance by comparison, but giving it anonymously, with a heart overflowing with pure, selfless compassion. The energy they are emitting is that of love, connection, and oneness. The universe must then reflect back to them experiences that match that high frequency: more connection, more love, more experiences of oneness. The outer form of the action is less important than the inner vibration of the consciousness performing it. This means that your thoughts themselves are potent karmic causes. If your mind is a place where you habitually entertain thoughts of judgment, resentment, criticism, and fear, you are constantly making a scowling face in the hall of mirrors. You are broadcasting a low-frequency, dissonant signal. The natural, unavoidable effect is that you will perceive and experience a reality that seems to justify these very thoughts. You will find more people to judge, more reasons to be resentful, more things to fear. You are living inside a room wallpapered with your own mental projections, and then blaming the room for its decor. Conversely, a mind cultivated to be a garden of peaceful, loving, and accepting thoughts is emitting a beautiful, high-frequency signal. The mirror of life will then reflect back a reality that feels more peaceful, loving, and accepting. Karma is not something that happens to you once in a while. It is the continuous, moment-to-moment feedback loop between your inner state and your outer experience. Grasping this truth leads to a moment of profound and radical responsibility. If your life is a reflection of your own consciousness, then you can never again be a victim. Nothing is happening to you. Everything is a reflection of you. This realization is not a cause for guilt over past actions. Guilt is a useless, low-frequency emotion. The past is gone. It is a cause for absolute liberation. It means that the power to change your life is not outside of you. It is not in the hands of other people, or luck, or circumstance. The creative power is, and always has been, within you. If you do not like the reflection you are seeing in the mirror of your life, you do not spend your energy trying to fix or smash the mirror. That is insane. You simply change the expression on your own face. You change the quality of your own consciousness. This new and empowering understanding of karma as a perfect, impersonal mirror illuminates the path forward. It shows us with absolute clarity that holding on to anger, grievances, or resentments against others is a profound act of self-harm. It is the equivalent of standing in the hall of mirrors and deliberately contorting your face in rage day after day, and then wondering why you are surrounded by such a hostile reality. It is drinking poison and expecting the mirror to get sick. To create a new life, a new reality, a new reflection, we must first wipe the slate clean. We must be willing to let go of the old, painful expressions we have been holding. To sow the beautiful karmic seeds of love, peace, and joy, we must first pull up the thorny, tangled weeds of past hurts that are choking the soil of our inner garden. The first, most crucial, and most powerful step in conscious creation and karmic purification is the courageous and liberating act of forgiveness. As we stand in the mirrored hall of karma, we come to a profound and sobering realization. We see that every thought of anger, every feeling of resentment, every story of grievance we hold against another is a scowl we are making at our own reflection. To hold on to unforgiveness is to voluntarily drink poison every day and expect the other person to get sick. It is the most profound act of self-harm, disguised by the ego as an act of righteousness. We believe we are punishing the other person by withholding our forgiveness. But the only person living in the prison of our bitterness is ourself. The person who hurt you may be living their life, oblivious, while you are the one reliving the painful event over and over again in the cinema of your mind. To break this cycle, to cleanse our karmic field, and to reclaim our power, we must learn the sacred and deeply misunderstood art of forgiveness. This is not a moral obligation. It is a pragmatic and essential act of self-liberation. It is the finding of the key that unlocks the heavy chains binding you to a painful past. The state of unforgiveness is a toxic inner environment. It is a wound that we refuse to allow to heal, picking at the scab each day by replaying the story of how we were wronged. This keeps the low-frequency vibrations of anger, blame, and victimhood on a constant loop in our energy field, ensuring that the mirror of life reflects back to us more situations to be angry and aggrieved about. It is an energetic anchor that keeps us moored in the stormy, stagnant waters of the past. Furthermore, unforgiveness gives the person or situation that hurt you a terrifying and continuous power over your life. They may have harmed you once in a single moment, but your refusal to forgive allows them to harm you every single day. You have given them free rent in the most precious real estate you own, the landscape of your mind. Their ghost haunts the halls of your consciousness, and you are the one who keeps handing it the key. This process consumes an immense amount of your vital life force. The energy that could be used for creating joy, for loving, for being present, is instead hemorrhaged in the exhausting, pointless task of maintaining old resentments. To truly understand this, imagine your soul is a magnificent ship, masterfully built, designed to sail the vast, blue, open ocean of life. This ocean is full of undiscovered islands, breathtaking sunsets, and peaceful, crystal-clear waters. It represents your potential, your freedom, your joy. But your ship is not sailing. For years, it has been stuck in a dark, murky, and perpetually stormy harbor. This harbor is the past. Why is it stuck? Because a thick, rusted anchor chain plunges from the heart of your ship deep into the muddy seabed. This anchor is your unforgiveness. It is the grievance you will not let go of. Day after day, you stand on the deck of your ship, looking longingly out at the beautiful sunlit ocean, wondering why you cannot get there. You might busy yourself by polishing the ship's brass, mending the sails, or cursing the miserable weather in the harbor, but you never think to address the true source of your immobility. You have been chained for so long, you have forgotten you are chained. You only feel the constant, heavy, downward pull. Forgiveness is the simple, courageous, and liberating act of picking up a file and beginning to saw through the links of that anchor chain. It requires effort. It requires a willingness to face the rusted, painful connection. But link by link, as you do the inner work, the chain begins to weaken. Forgiveness does not magically change the past or make the stormy harbor disappear. But the moment the final link is severed, the ship is suddenly, miraculously free. It is no longer defined by the harbor. It can now catch the fresh winds of the present moment and begin its true journey out into the open sea of new possibilities, new experiences, and new realities. You are finally free to sail. It is here that we must clarify what forgiveness is and what it is not, for the ego has many objections. Forgiveness is not condoning. It is not saying, "What you did to me was okay." Harmful acts are never okay. It is simply acknowledging that they happened and that you will no longer allow them to control your present. Forgiveness is not reconciliation. It does not mean you must allow a toxic person back into your life. Forgiving someone can, and often should, be done from a great distance. It is about freeing your inner world, not rearranging your outer world. Forgiveness is not for the other person. They may never know you have forgiven them. They may never apologize. They may never change. To wait for their apology is to give them the key to your own prison cell. Forgiveness is a gift you give to yourself. So what then is forgiveness? Forgiveness is a conscious declaration of your own freedom. It is you, standing on the deck of your ship and saying with absolute conviction, "What happened is in the past. I will no longer allow it to poison my present or dictate my future. I am taking my life back now." Forgiveness is the ultimate act of reclaiming your power. You cease to be the victim of your history and become the creator of your destiny. You take back the controls of your own emotional state and your own vibrational broadcast. And most powerfully, forgiveness is the cancellation of a psychic debt. As long as you feel someone owes you an apology or remorse or retribution, you are energetically chained to them. When you forgive, you cancel that imaginary debt. You are not letting them off the hook. You are letting yourself off the hook. You are releasing them from their role as your jailer so that you can walk free. Let us try a small practice of this liberation. Close your eyes and gently bring to mind someone or some situation that you have been carrying as a grievance. Allow yourself, just for a moment, to feel the familiar story, the sting of the memory, the heavy energy of the resentment. See or feel, in your mind's eye, the energetic chains or cords that connect your heart to this person or this past event. See how they drain your energy and keep you tethered to a moment that is gone. Now, breathing deeply into your heart space, say these words, either silently or aloud, and try to feel them as much as you can. To the person or situation that hurt me, I see the pain you caused. I do not condone it, but I will no longer carry it. I release you from the debt I believed you owed me. I release you from your role in my story of suffering. I forgive you, not for you, but for me. I set myself free. As you say these words, visualize those energetic chains dissolving into light, or imagine yourself cutting them with a sword of pure awareness. Feel the lightness, the spaciousness, the release in your own being. And now, the most important and often the most difficult step. Turn this powerful act of forgiveness inward. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for any mistakes you have made. Forgive yourself for judging yourself so harshly. Forgive yourself for holding on to the poison of unforgiveness for so long, not knowing it was only hurting you. Place a hand on your own heart and say, I forgive myself. I did the best I could with the awareness I had at the time. I release the past and I accept myself fully and completely in this moment. This act of self-forgiveness is the final severing cut of the anchor chain. This profound act of cleansing, of letting go, creates a vast, open space within you. The channels of your heart, which were once clogged with the toxic sludge of bitterness and resentment, are now clear. A heart that was once a constricted, defended fortress is now an open, spacious, and receptive vessel. This sacred emptiness does not remain empty for long. The universe abhors a vacuum. Into this new, clear space, a higher, more beautiful, and more powerful vibration naturally begins to flow. Having cleared away all that is not love, you have created the perfect, fertile conditions for the emergence of the real thing. You have made yourself ready to explore the true nature of love itself. Having cleansed the inner landscape with the healing waters of forgiveness, a vast and fertile space has been created within your heart. The old thorny weeds of resentment have been cleared, the soil has been turned, and it is now ready for a new kind of seed. We now arrive at the subject of love. No word in any language is more used, more sought after, and more profoundly misunderstood. We use the same word to describe our feeling for a beautiful sunset, a new pair of shoes, our children, and our romantic partners. The ego has co-opted the word love and turned it into a currency for its own transactions of need and validation. But beneath the ego's distorted version lies the real thing. True love is not an emotion. It is a state of being. It is the very fabric of the universe, the high-frequency vibration from which all life emerges. Our task is to distinguish the ego's counterfeit love from the authentic love that is our very essence. Let us first examine the ego's version of love, the version that is the source of so much human drama and suffering. The ego's love is, without exception, conditional. It always comes with a hidden clause, a silent because. I love you because you make me feel safe. I love you because you are beautiful, and that makes me look good. I love you because you admire me and validate my sense of self. The love is not actually for the other person in their totality. It is for the function they perform, the pleasant feeling they provide. The moment they stop providing that feeling, if they get sick, if they disagree with you, if they no longer fulfill your needs, the ego's love wavers and often turns to resentment. Secondly, the ego's love is possessive. It seeks to own. It says, my partner, my friend, as if the other person were a possession acquired to enhance one's life. This possessiveness is the root of jealousy, control, and manipulation. The ego, feeling itself to be an empty, lacking fragment, tries to merge with another person to feel whole, and then lives in constant fear of losing that external part of its identity. The phrase, "I can't live without you," which our culture romanticizes, is not a declaration of love. It is a statement of addiction. It reveals a deep-seated belief that one's own well-being is dependent on an external source. This is not love, it is neediness. To understand the difference between these two kinds of love, let us use a powerful metaphor. Imagine that the ego's love is a tightly clenched fist. In its hand, it desperately grasps a handful of fine, golden sand. This sand represents the other person's affection, their presence, their validation. The ego believes that the sand is precious and scarce, and that its own happiness depends on possessing it. And so, it squeezes. It clenches its fist tighter and tighter, believing that this pressure will secure the sand, that this control will prevent any of it from being lost. But it discovers a painful truth. The tighter it squeezes, the more the fine grains of sand slip out between its fingers. Its frantic effort to possess the sand is the very action that drives it away. Eventually, its hand is empty, aching and sore, and the sand is gone. This is the path of attachment, the attempt to own love, to control it, to force it to meet your needs, always leads to suffering and the destruction of the very thing you cherish. Now, imagine true love. True love is not a clenched fist, it is an open palm. The hand is relaxed, spacious, and trusting. It knows its own inherent wholeness. It is not trying to get anything. It simply offers itself as a welcoming, stable place. The golden sand can be placed in this open palm, and it can rest there without pressure, without demand. The wind can come and blow some of the sand away, and the open palm does not clench in fear. A bird can land and carry a few grains away, and the palm remains open. The open palm understands that the sand is not, and never was, its own. Its sense of worth and completeness does not depend on how much sand it is holding at any given moment. It is at peace with the natural, effortless flow of life, with the coming and going of all forms. It finds its joy not in possessing, but in the simple act of being an open, loving space. This is the love that is freedom. The ego seeks a person to fill its own empty cup. This is why it is always in a state of want, of need. True love can only happen when you have discovered that your own cup is already full. In fact, it is overflowing. True love is not something you go out and find. It is what you become. It is the radiation of the inner fullness and peace that you have cultivated within yourself. It is not a transaction, it is an overflow. And because it comes from a place of fullness, it is naturally unconditional. It does not have a because. It loves for the sake of loving. It is a sun that shines, not because it wants to receive something from the planets, but because shining is its nature. This love is non-possessive. It honors the freedom of the other above all else. It does not try to change, fix, or improve the other person. It simply provides a space of unconditional acceptance in which the other person can be fully themselves. This leads us to the most important and practical truth about love. All true love is born from self-love. You cannot give to another what you do not, yourself, possess. The relentless search for a partner to complete you is a fool's errand, because it is based on the false premise that you are incomplete. The entire spiritual journey is the process of realizing that you are, and always have been, whole. The work is not to find your other half, but to become reacquainted with your own wholeness. Self-love is not the same as selfishness or narcissism. Those are traits of the ego, which is constantly obsessed with its self-image. True self-love is a quiet, profound recognition of the sacredness of your own being. It is looking past the conditioned personality with all its flaws and insecurities, and sensing the timeless, beautiful, and infinitely lovable consciousness that you are. It is treating yourself with the same deep compassion, patience, and kindness that you would offer to a beloved friend. When you can truly love and accept the being that you are, you stop needing anyone else to do it for you. Your relationships transform from needy transactions into joyful sharings between two whole beings. Take a moment to practice this. Find a mirror and simply look into your own eyes. Look past the surface-level judgments your mind might offer. Gaze into the depth of your own pupils, the windows to your soul, and then, softly, either aloud or in your heart, say to yourself, "I am worthy of love. I accept myself completely. I am love." Do not worry if it feels awkward or untrue at first. You are planting a new seed in the garden of your mind. You are offering the open palm of acceptance to yourself. As you embark on this journey of learning to love yourself, of discovering the overflowing fullness within your own being, you will find that it requires a new level of honesty and attunement. You must learn to listen to yourself with incredible care. But who exactly are you listening to? The mind, as we have seen, is often an unreliable narrator, filled with the conditioned voices of the past and the fearful projections of the ego. It will tell you that you need external things to be happy, that you must please others to be loved. How can you distinguish the needy cravings of the ego from the authentic wisdom of your soul? Fortunately, you have been equipped with a perfectly accurate, infallible instrument of truth. It is a divine compass that constantly points you toward what is truly nourishing and aligned with your highest good. To truly love yourself, you must first learn to listen to the silent, profound, and unerringly honest language of your own body. Having established that true love must begin with a deep and unconditional loving of oneself, we arrive at a most practical question. How do we practice this self-love? How do we know what is truly nourishing for us versus what is merely a craving of the ego? The mind, as we have seen, is an unreliable guide. It is a house of echoes filled with the conditioned voices of parents, teachers, and society. It will tell you that you should pursue a certain career for the status or stay in a relationship to avoid being alone, even if your soul is withering. To navigate the complexities of life and to truly learn to love ourselves, we need a source of guidance that is incapable of lying. We need an instrument of truth. You have been given such an instrument. It is the most sophisticated, sensitive, and intelligent technology in the known universe. It is your own body. For too long, we have been taught to see the body as a machine, a vessel to carry the all-important brain around, a beast of burden to be fueled, disciplined, and occasionally repaired. This is a profound and tragic misunderstanding. Your body is not a machine. It is a sacred compass, a living oracle, and its language is the pure, unadulterated truth of the present moment. The mind speaks in the language of words, concepts, and stories. It is a master storyteller, weaving intricate narratives from the threads of the past and the anxieties of the future. The body, however, knows nothing of past or future. It exists only in the absolute realness of the now, and it speaks a much older, more fundamental language, the language of sensation. Your body is constantly communicating with you through feelings of expansion and contraction, ease and dis-ease, openness and tightness. This physical feedback is a direct and immediate reflection of your alignment with truth. Your mind can rationalize staying in a job that is crushing your spirit, but your body will tell the truth through the tightness in your shoulders, the dull ache in your lower back, or the chronic fatigue that no amount of coffee can seem to fix. Your mind can try to convince you that a certain relationship is good for you, but your body will reveal the truth through the knot in your stomach when you are with that person, or the subtle feeling of being drained after you interact with them. Your body is your infallible truth detector, and learning to listen to its whispers is a radical act of self-love and empowerment.